Hi, and welcome to the 12th broadcast in Community Library Training. Our program today is one that is covered briefly in your Loyola course, and it's Lesson 16 and 17 of the course book, and it has to do with reference and information services. Now, I don't know how many of you are already there at that point, but more fun than that is the fact that I have a guest with me that I know every one of you know, and it's absolutely not necessary to introduce Brooke Sheldon, but Brooke is with me, and we had fun with the program that we did today, and we'll be getting into that very soon. For a moment, to relate this particular broadcast to your coursework, if you have progressed as far as 16 and 17, you know that Joe Schubert made a comment about reference services, and I'm going to read that just briefly because it's an important point to be made, I think, in connection with what we're trying to do too. He says finding the answer to a reference question is not always easy, but successfully answering such a question is one of the most important and satisfying jobs that you'll do. He says that the small library pamphlet number 9 affords only the briefest introduction to reference materials and their use. Students are urged to take a special course in reference work. And I think we were very aware of this when we had a 30-minute program to devote to reference work. The fact that Joe has said, and you and I know, there are entire courses that can be taken in reference work. So, in that light, during the past few months at the State Library, we've been doing some little in-service for ourselves. We've been trying to do this every Friday, and while it's been super valuable for us to learn about the Federal Register and Alaska state statutes and this kind of thing, one of the things that came up in that session, Brooke, and you remember this too, was that the students said they really would like to pursue the area of the human element in reference service. And as we looked at the course, this particular part of our course, we realized that maybe we'd kind of like to focus on that. Now, what we've done is take you to one of the more well-known libraries in Alaska, and we have a tape to show you, and after we have run that, we'll get back and talk about some of the things we were trying to illustrate. So let's take a look at that tape now.
Hello, maybe you can help me. I've just been elected to the City Council, and we're considering changing our form of government from the City Council mayor type of government to using a city manager, and I wonder if there were some material that would tell me, what's best.
Well, Councilman Stogie, I'm so glad you came to our library, and I'm really glad that you've been elected. And I hope that we can find some things that would help you. Now let me restate this. What you want to do is get some background information on setting up either a city manager type or
some of the reasons for having one or the other. There must be somebody who's written about the advantages.
Right, I think there must be, and I'm not sure how much we have right here, but as a first step, I suggest we take a look at this that I'd really like members of the council to know about, because I think there is some good information in here. It's put out by the International City Management Association. It's called the Municipal Yearbook. And
wouldn't they be kind of prejudiced? The city manager, or is that just city manager?
No, it really is quite impartial. Oh. And I think you would get both sides of an issue. Basically, it's a directory. It has all kinds of information. It even has information on writing an environmental impact statement.
Oh.
Every year is different, and it's current, up-to-date legislation that is passed at the state level of interest to local municipalities. Okay, now let's look back in the index under voting, under city manager. I guess that would be a good approach. Right. Now, directory of municipal officials, salaries, see also international city management. I don't think that's quite it. But if we check back here, you might browse through, where is this section? It gives a, right. This is a general idea of some of the areas, and I thought that even if we don't find what we want here, what I'm going to do is, we're part of the state network of library services, and we can send into the public library in Anchorage, we can send a subject request. And I just have a little form here. I might need a little bigger one for this one, but I'll outline what it is you want.
Okay.
And as a subject request, and I'll send it, mail it out today to them. and they will check in the Anchorage area to see what books are available. I happen to know that there's a brand new book, I just read about it in Library Journal, called The Rise of the City Manager, which is a background kind of thing.
Certainly would be.
But they can, if they don't have it in Anchorage, they will telex to the State Library in Juneau, and Juneau will check other university library in Fairbanks, and if we don't have it within the state, we can also go out of the state to Seattle, to the Pacific Northwest
you mean,
Center.
if we don't have it here, you can go to some other library and get what I need to give me the information?
To the Library of Congress, if necessary. We have a hookup to all the resources in the United States.
It's a wonderful service.
But I
Does
don't think we'll
everybody
have
know
to go
about
that far. This is why I'm so glad you're here, because you do know people in the community, and you can utilize the service and help us.
What's this kind of a service
advertise
called
it.
when you're sending away for stuff?
It's called interlibrary loan.
Interlibrary loan. That makes sense.
Right, and we really want local people to use it. So I will just take this down. And when is your council meeting?
Well, the next council meeting is in 2 weeks, but, you know, we've got some preparatory time here, but I just wanted to get information
started.
before I had to make a decision.
Well, I'll call you just as soon as this
You'll call.
comes in.
Okay.
I'll call.
Hey,
Right.
thank you much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Cynthia. How are you today?
I'm exhausted.
Oh,
I've
wow.
been working on that cabin, and it's finally done.
Oh, isn't
Oh,
that great?
it's so
When will you be
neat.
moving in?
As soon as I get some furniture.
Oh,
That's why I'm here.
Really?
I heard on the radio that libraries are here to help you, so help.
I'll try.
I'd like to find some books on antiques. I'd like to furnish the cabin with real antiques. I'm planning to go outside back east to some antique shows and things, but I don't know anything about it. And I went to the card catalog over there, and you don't seem to have any books on antiques. Can you help?
Let me see. I think you're right. We probably don't have any, or at least anything that directly refers to decorating a log cabin, which
Right,
of course
everything
is a
is-
certain kind of atmosphere.
Right, it's
that
for
you'd
these
like
palatial
to
homes
set
in
up.
France, and it doesn't
And
look
I
like that at all.
wonder, just a thought, but I wonder if maybe there might be, you know, there are all these magazines. We don't have them all, but we can send for some that have articles, you know, like House and Garden and so on. And I wonder if maybe we could try the Reader's Guide. You know,
Okay.
you know about the Reader's Guide?
Oh, from in college, when I
Yes,
had to
right,
do papers, but
right.
it's been a long time.
Well, let's look under house decoration and see what we find here. House decoration. Now, normally, I guess you'd look under decoration, but I happen to know that you look under house decoration in Reader's Guide. That's just the
Is
way
that
they
because
do
you have
it.
a master's in library science that you know that?
That's because I know it.
Good.
No, not because of that. House decoration. I mean, let's see now. Here we go. Here are all the articles. Beauty all around you. Decorating. Everything in one enormous room. I don't see exactly what we want. It seems to me that I even saw something in a magazine not too long
About
ago.
cabinets?
Right. So let's try the most
Wow.
recent issue of the Reader's Guide. Again, house decoration.
There's houseboats, house meat.
Charm of living in an up-to-date log cabin. How does that
out.
Yes,
Oh,
right.
that's neat.
And wow, look at this. It's in House and Garden, February '74. Let
have
me
that
see.
magazine?
It just happens that we do have
There
that
it is.
magazine.
Oh,
And
how
what's the
neat.
page number
where
for
was it?
that? We lost it again.
There you go.
Page 36. Let's see what we've got here. 36.
Oh, isn't that neat?
Isn't that terrific?
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful.
And maybe
Look
that
at
would
that
be
basket.
right. Oh, that's a beautiful cabin, isn't
Oh, my husband will really enjoy
it? Right.
looking at
Why
this.
don't you take this home?
Okay, may I?
And then I'll look around. I think that, you know, we've been weeding out a few things and so on. And while we wouldn't have a whole book on decorating log cabins, I may be able to find some things like, you know, early American glass and that sort of thing. And so I'll
Oh,
see what else I
great.
can find for you.
Anything you can find would be a wonderful help. Thank you, Brooke.
You're welcome.
See you.
Good to see you. I hope you enjoy your new home.
Excuse me. Hello.
Hello, how are you today? Can I
fine, thank
help
you.
you?
Yes, ma'am. Could you tell me how old you have to be to vote?
You'd like to know what the voting age is?
Yes.
All right, let's see. I think the World Almanac, or possibly I happen to have in hand Information Please Almanac, might give that kind of information.
Oh, good.
Are you doing a paper, or is it just for your own information?
It's a friend of mine. They're just out of high school, some friends, and they wanted to know. They forgot to ask their teacher, I guess, and they want to know how old you have to be to vote. I don't know whether
Right.
for the United States, I guess.
Right, all right. Let's see. Well, here's voting. Age by country, page 295. That looks like it might be it. Notice, for example, and you might want to tell them this, if they're doing a report, we seem to have a lot of other information. I'm sure we'd have pamphlets as well on the legislation, qualifications by state. I think that refers to residency and so on. But anyway, let's check. 295. 295. Here we are. By country, right. United States, 18. And according to this, 62% of the people in the United States exercise their voting right.
Uh-huh. I guess that's what I need to know. You've been very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you for coming in.
Bye now.
Bye.
That's a good telephone.
Shirley B. Tryhard Memorial Library. May I help you? Oh, yes, Mrs. Bountiful. Oh, you're having a little argument over there. Well, what can I do? Oh, you want to know how to spell hors d'oeuvre? Oh, wow, that's a tough one. You know, I think I know how to spell it, but of course, my word is not very good. So I'm going to check my handy-dandy but heavy Random House Dictionary. Hang on a minute, would you, Mrs. Bountiful? Hors d'oeuvres. Here we go. Oh, it has an S on it. Mrs. Bountiful? Do you have a pencil? H-O-R-S, that's right, space, D'-O-E-U-V-R-E. Yes, tell that man shouting in the background that there is an apostrophe in hors d'oeuvre. You're welcome. I hope you have a very nice party. Bye, Mrs. Bountiful. Yes.
My brother is coming up from Oregon, and he's a fishing buff, and I wanted to find out how I could get him a fishing license, a non-resident fishing license, and I just don't know where to go, so I came here.
Right. He's just coming up on a visit?
Yeah, just for a week.
Oh, how nice. Let me see. Actually, your visit is very timely, because I just rode away to Juneau, to the State Fish and Game Department, and they've sent me a bunch of pamphlets. Let me see if these pamphlets actually answer your question. Let's see. Here we go. License information. Sport fishing license is required for all fishing in fresh and salt water. License fees are as follows. Resident sport fishing, $5. Non-resident sport fishing, $20. Visitors, special 10-day sport fishing, $10.
Oh, that would be perfect for him. Well, I'll need to know things like bag limits and things like that, too.
Right.
And,
Probably, and I can give you one of these pamphlets because they sent me a nice little supply, but you might want to, as I understand it, the Fish and Game Department does have a local representative in most small areas.
Really? I've been kind of thinking about becoming a registered guide. Would he know about that kind of thing, too?
I think he would. I think he might be just the person to talk to. Let's see if I can locate him in the telephone book.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll try under Alaska. Alaska Fish and Game Department Protection Division. I think I know who that is. That's Tom Thrushfoot. Now, do you have time to talk with him now, or should
Maybe I could just write that down and take it with me.
all right, fine. Why don't you jot that down on this little card? And I know Tom. He's a really nice guy, and he'd be glad to talk to you.
Okay.
You getting tired of teaching school?
Well, it's almost that time of year.
Right.
And you said I could have one of those.
Yes.
You have extras?
Yes.
Take
Okay.
that with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, Brooke, that was fun. I took some notes while we were watching that, and things that I hope that we'll mention. But it was so much fun to have done that. And of course, our students will recognize maybe a couple of the players there. Other people we more or less got off the street, and those were good patrons. And of course, you were an outstanding librarian in all respects.
They were terrific.
They were very good. I did notice a few things right at the very beginning, and I guess even though we kind of have loaded the deck with the points we wanted to make. First thing I noticed was that you didn't point the patron to the resource. And that wasn't just because you were working with a small set. It was because we just don't point patrons when they ask us questions. You could have done that. You could have said, over there, have you checked this or have you checked that? But I noticed that you went with them, or right there, went through the book, and that you illustrated the use of the book.
Right. I have a pet peeve about that. I just can't stand to hear someone say, have you checked the card catalog? And there was even a certain frustration there with the log cabin one that I couldn't, you know, without putting Cynthia down, but I really wanted to get back into the collection with her.
To make sure that maybe she just hadn't overlooked the subject approach or whatever. In the use of the book, I know we laughed later. Remember when you picked up the municipal directory? And there are a lot of points, I think, to be made with that particular one. But one of the points that we have been making in our own workshops at the State Library was, don't pretend to try and use a book without really knowing about it. And remember, we said, take time to read the preface. And all new worlds of information suddenly open up to you. But you were using that book front and back and so forth. And in each case, and even in the case of all the other patrons that you were dealing with, you indicated a little further that the patron maybe would like to go a little further with the information other than what they just asked you. Well, those were things that came to mind just as I was watching. But let's take them kind of one by one, each of your little interviews. And, oh gosh, several things came out when you're talking to the member of the city council. What's your basic philosophy about local librarians and their relationship to city government? I think it came through there.
Well, I just regarded that as a fantastic opportunity to, one, show the city councilman that you did in fact know him, and maybe you knew him as your next door neighbor, but really in that situation you knew him as a professional resource for him, and to quickly attempt to establish that. I would have liked to have gone a little further to get into another kind of area, in that, you know, we say reference books. These are reference books because we keep them on hand all the time. But if Councilman Stogie had said, our council meeting's tomorrow, and we had spotted something really good, or even if we hadn't, and he needed that municipal yearbook, it would have walked right out with him, because it would have been worth it in terms of service to get that exposure to the whole council. I guess I don't have to belabor that.
We could talk about that for a while too.
Reference books are only reference books in that you want them on hand most of the time.
Yeah.
Maybe there are times when they ought to be out of the library too.
Maybe
in
there
this
are. And that was
situation.
okay. I noticed a couple of other things. Obviously, we wanted to illustrate to our students that even though the Trizard Memorial Library had some resources and a very enthusiastic librarian, we weren't in any way limited to our own collection. So what we did was say, interlibrary loan. In fact, I think that that dear librarian was willing to go to Library of Congress for that city councilman. And we smile when we say that, but we're very serious. We are part of a network. We are not limited by our own local collection.
Right. And
go ahead.
I think if you know your collection pretty well, I wouldn't ever underestimate all the wealth of information in just a small one, but if you're pretty certain you're going to go on, it doesn't hurt to almost suggest that from the very beginning, that we may have something here, but basically that's probably what we're going to do. Then the patron has that kind of mindset for it. He knows he's going to get helped, so he's not impatient. And while you sort of bumble around through the card file and whatever tools you have.
That's a good point. I notice also that you mentioned having read Library Journal, which means that you regularly take time to read reviews and so forth, so she kind of got that in too. Well, okay, so much for the city manager one. I have a feeling that that Councilman Stogie will go back and speak to the other councilmen about what a magnificent resource you really are. We had some other things that we wanted to illustrate too, and when Cynthia came in to talk to Brooke, the very first thing I noticed was that they did know each other. Now, it's a small community, and they were able to call each other by name. The librarian is known in that community. And we had some other points that we kind of wanted to get across. It was nice that Cynthia happened to mention that she'd heard announcements about the library on the radio, and that's why she came. Really, we're talking about using an alternate to the card catalog. And so you did several things with Reader's Guide. Like, you didn't find it in the first one, did you?
No.
Which often happens. There are times when I think we feel like we've just searched and searched through the full realm of Reader's Guide. And our purpose there was really to help Cynthia understand that we weren't, again, limited by what was in the card catalog. Well, one of my favorite ones, and it's one that I can't remember if this is a legitimate question, meaning did it really come from a patron, or is it just a situation that we all recognize? How about when Bobby Lee came in and said, "How old do you have to be to vote?" What were we after there?
Well, often the question is far removed from the hoped-for answer. As it turns out, this was just a general way of stating it. It wasn't difficult, but you do sometimes have to, and it's kind of a subtle technique. You have to find out what they really want without.
You did a couple of things there. Finding out what they want without saying, "What do you mean?" or "Who wants to know?" which is always, well, I guess I haven't really heard "who wants to know," but what do you really mean? You did a couple of things. We laughed because he said, "How old do you have to be to vote?" And you said, "Let me see now, you want to know the voting age." And we kind of giggled about that, but that is a technique. Restate the patron's question, and they may correct you. What he said was yes. You did another thing, because that still didn't give you a handle. You kind of picked up a resource, sort of maybe wanting to get them loose and get them started. But you also did another thing that I think a lot of people, trained people or people with a lot of experience do, which is you wanted to know what he needed to know, what he needed to use the information for. You asked, "Is it for a report?" And right away you knew, no, he wasn't after a lot of statistics. As it happened, one of our very favorite resources helped you with that particular question. Oh, and then the telephone one was fun. When you talked, who was that?
Mrs. Bountiful having a party.
What, your handy-dandy 12-pound Random House dictionary, which wasn't quite so easy for you to get to the phone. What were we really after when we wanted to illustrate that?
What were we really after?
Remember what you said? You said that's a tough one, but you don't want to rely on me.
Yes, it's that it's such a temptation when it's really basically a simple question. But, it really is a rule about, and that's why people will call the library. They know that you won't get someone's opinion or a bad guess. You'll get it from something that is, as authentic as possible. Now, certainly some of our books, the Government Organization Manual, has been known to make mistakes, but basically we just don't give information over the telephone without being able to cite the source.
Right. Okay, our fishing license one was packed with all kinds of things. The first thing that impressed me was that the local librarian had written away to to another agency for free pamphlets and was giving information away. He didn't have to bring that back. We had another purpose there too. You used your telephone book, and that was in the whole area of community referral. He came there because he didn't know, but really, what you really did was turn it around so that he knew that there were other resources also.
That's right, and this is a concept, I think we talked about this on an early program, that people tend to think of the library as kind of musty book storage place, and more what we are clearing houses for all kinds of information in whatever form, and the business of knowing what's going on in the town, when the health facilities are operating, all of this kind of information is what makes people think of the library as someplace that, God, you really can find out stuff that relates to everyday life and not just Shakespeare or something esoteric.
I was thinking that if we'd gone on with that particular role-playing situation with all that illustration, that you would probably have been one of the most successful reference librarians in record. But, Brooke, we have just a few moments left in the broadcast. I'm not certain how many of our students are viewing us today. I'm going to put the earphones on because I'm going to ask you to interrupt and call us at any time. So if, especially if our students from Craig are able to make their ATS-1 radio work, it would really be a delight to get to hear from you. So I'm going to put these on and give you a chance to call in now. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to mention one of the little things that we did was to draw together a basic book list. And I think at the time we were doing that, Brooke, we said, you know, nothing's worse than trying to put together what you consider to be an essential list. But why don't I hand that to you? And what was it we decided to call that?
We decided to call it Suggested Reference Books for Small Community Libraries in Alaska. And I guess it goes without saying that anything you can get on Alaska is basic.
Oh, and that reminds me, one of the points that we wanted to make was the point about state and local publications. And the fact that we do have depository libraries to which our students can either write directly for state and local publications. Every library receives this catalog. And one of the things that we just had to put on that list, I think we only ended up with about 20 references altogether. One of the things that we had to put on it was the United States Government Manual. And do you want to make a couple of comments about that? I'm going to pick off one of my favorite things here, too.
Well, I'm not sure this is my favorite one, but I think that if you're going to emphasize this role as being useful to city government and officials, that they're just, what it does is describe the purposes and the programs and the personnel of most federal government agencies. And I think you'll find that in all small Alaska communities, this is a really choice investment.
Plus, it's not expensive.
Right, it's not expensive and it's current.
Now, just as soon as I said that's not expensive, I guess I've chosen something that is. I don't know if this can be read very clearly, but we decided that probably one of the most critical tools for a librarian is books in print. And it comes in volumes indicating the author volume, and title volume. And I guess the most important thing we want to say is that if this is the greatest, well, it sounds like a technical word, this is the greatest verification tool that we could possibly have. What was that book that so-and-so wrote? I kind of forgot the title, but, or who wrote the book called, and you can go either way to approach it. I think we're also careful to say that this isn't really a selection tool. We're not really intending that local libraries use it as a selection tool, but that it's really indispensable. I guess that's the most expensive thing we put on the list. Our intention for the students' information is to distribute the list to you so that you can see the kinds of things that we had decided were really critical. In the area of directories, we said, obviously, that you're going to have your own local telephone directory, should be able to be called for zip code information, and any kind of directory that really relates. We ended up with one atlas, one set of encyclopedias. What were a couple of the others that we thought were really critical?
Well, we thought one etiquette book, up to date, not out of date, Bartlett's quotations, basic tools like that.
A first aid book, hopefully, a first aid book, and
How to clean
how to
everything.
clean everything. We thought that would be great for telephone operations. Classic is a case when Brooke and Sheila get together. We've just talked and talked. We had a lot of fun putting together today's program, and I know that it was really just the beginning, and I hope that we've at least gotten you to start thinking about some of the elements that Brooke wanted to illustrate. Thanks, Brooke. I think it was fun for you too, wasn't it?
But yes, it was great. Thank you.